And hello there guys, my name is Ravan Lake and today I decided that I'll do something completely different that I normally wouldn't do. But this is the occasion that I think needs it. So Most Underworld was announced just a couple of weeks ago and I kind of decided that okay, I want to bring my own opinion about this whole game and kind of give you my thoughts about Monster Hunter series overall to you guys and how it has changed through time as we go along here. And so just sit back and relax, and I hope you enjoy what I have to say. And yeah, I'm personally from Finland, so my English isn't like perfect, so I hope you can endure it. So yeah, Most Underworld, and I'm not going to go too much into detail of Most Underworld in of itself. I'm going to talk to you guys about Monster Hunter as a series overall and how it has changed over time and what Most Underworld will bring back to people. So the first thing that I kind of came up to my mind when they announced the very first trailer from E3 that didn't really show anything about Monster Hunter. Like it showed some mounting and some of the seamless interaction with the map and the ecosystem that is in there, some of that stuff. But all of that was kind of I was jumping out of my seat, of course, like, oh my god, new Monster Hunter. But at the same time I was questioning it a little bit. But then, of course, later on they announced the gameplay trailer and kind of showed it a little bit more there, which was amazing. It is pretty much everything that I have hoped for the past 10 years almost, I have to say. Ever since Monster Hunter 1, I have always been in the minority of people who actually thought that Monster Hunter was going into a wrong direction straight from the start after Monster Hunter 1. Monster Hunter DOS was still good, but it was more like an upgrade to Monster Hunter 1 or a DLC patch or whatever you might call it. But then in the Freedom series, of course, it kind of went into that direction, which kind of threw me off guard, you could say. So I'm a hunter from way back from Monster Hunter 1. I think I started in 2006, maybe. I played a couple of years, almost 2 years or something, and until the servers got closed and everything. So I remember the day when I went to Capcom forums when the servers were closed, and I was hearing about Monster Hunter DOS. I think it was released at that point, but they were talking about Monster Hunter DOS and Freedom being the next installment on PSP. And I remember being back in the day when I was on the forums, and I was already back 9 years ago. I was already that guy who kind of complained about something. I know it's kind of it's very questionable if you should be the guy that complains about everything, but there was definitely a change in direction when we saw something like similar monsters like Rathalos and Rathian being used over and over again, with Pink Rathian, Azure Rathian, Silver Rathalos and Golden Rathian. Those type of monsters were already the trash kind of stuff that was added to Monster Hunter, which to me just wasn't good game design. And already back then I was yeah, this game is not going to be going into the direction that I was thinking Monster Hunter was all about. Because in Monster Hunter 1, when I the very first moments when I was playing it, the idea of it was, okay, you need to learn to be the hunter. You need to learn to find your items, learn to combine your items, you learn to use those items. Everything was about the items, most of it. There was, of course, the little aspect of that, you have a good weapon with you, and it's a huge weapon, it's a cool weapon, and you could slay a monster with this. but it also was part of it was the like item usage and using those items correctly and making up decisions as you go along. And to me, over time in Freedom series, that kind of faded away. Not in Freedom series too much. It ended up being a okay game. I did like Freedom Unite and everything. Don't get me wrong there, but I do remember that I was questioning a lot of the stuff that they decided back then, and then became Monster Hunter Tri. And this is the game where many people should have realized that this was the correct direction that Capcom was wanting to make. Like, they wanted to do this but over time, like when 3U came out and everything, people didn't really understand the point of Monster Hunter Tri and 3 Ultimate. I think I'm not going to go into too much detail into that, because there's of course there's multiple opinions about this stuff, but the direction of Tri and 3 Ultimate was more in the lines of, okay, let's make people actually let's make this game accessible to people, so that not like let's make this game easy, but make it so that it's accessible to people, so that when they first pick up the game, they can actually understand the game a little bit better, from the start of the game. And that was the whole point. And they the quests that they removed a lot of gathering stuff and everything of that nature, and it was all good. I really liked it. I even liked the underwater fighting, which was very odd to me when 3 Ultimate came out. Nobody was complaining about underwater fights in Tri. I couldn't find anything about underwater fights about being complete trash. Of course, I did read something about okay, the depth of field was bad, or the movement was a little sluggish, but it was okay, and stuff like that. But then 3 Ultimate came out, and I think the community back from that time or the Nintendo community you could say kind of rose up at that point with Miiverse and everything of that nature, and kind of brought out this idea of, okay, the underwater fight was bad. But that's not the point. The point was that Tri really tried their best to make the game accessible, and also they added monster behavior. And this is the point I want to bring you guys. I think after Tri, I became very, very keen on monster behavior in Monster Hunter games, because I wasn't really paying attention to it too much in Freedom series and before that, but it was nice to have something okay, well, a monster gets aggressive or it can calm down and things of that nature. But then Tri kind of expanded on that, making monsters exhaust and go eat fish when they're hungry, and sleep. Of course, Monster Hunter 1 had sleep and everything, but all of that nature came into Monster Hunter Tri, and I really liked it. I liked that they developed that aspect of the game. But the thing is that after Monster Hunter Tri and 3 Ultimate, they didn't develop any develop the or upgrade or update the monster behavior system at all. I remember seeing Monster Hunter Generations trailer or demo, actually. Yeah, it was a demo of Mizutsune, I think. People were playing that, and I think they also announced the trailer at that point where Mizutsune was eating fish or something. And I was reading down the comments there, and I was so confused when people were like, oh my god, Mizutsune is eating fish, from the lake or whatever have you, and I was eating fish isn't a new thing. Monster Hunter Tri already had like Kurupeko eating fish, and this to me was like very, very odd that people didn't actually. A lot of people didn't understand that this was already in Monster Hunter Tri and thought that it was a new mechanic or new monster behavior, but it wasn't. I'm not saying like all people thought this way, but I did see some comments about that. And the thing is that after Monster Hunter Tri, there was no new monster behavior systems added, and I was the one guy I think at that point who went on to social media like Facebook and Twitter and everywhere, like talking about this monster behavior system that hasn't been updated since. And I was talking about things like, okay, well, if a hunter like sets out a trap very obviously, like on the ground, right in front of him or front of a monster or something, then the monster could have probably ripped off the pitfall trap from the ground, or shot a fireball to a shock trap to destroy it, or something of that nature. But even my own intellect at that point wasn't really, you could say, if you compare that to what Monster Hunter World now offers to people, I think even my intellect wasn't ready for what Monster Hunter World is going to bring. But it is really funny to me that I have been talking about this system for so long to people, and people don't really understand it. They think that Monster Hunter is and always has been about you being this awesome dude and going and killing the monster with your weapon. But it never was really about that. And I think after Generations came out, it became this hack and slash game. I know a lot of people will like trash me for saying that it's not hack and slash, but it is hack and slash at its best. Basically, the only thing that it needs is a combo little thing like or hit counter, how many times you have hit the monster. And really, Generations just destroyed it for me overall. I'm not saying it's a bad game, but I am saying that it's not a game for me. I think 4 Ultimate was probably the best Monster Hunter game overall in terms of endgame content, and it is one of my personal games that I have been playing like the longest. So I have like 3,000 hours on 4 Ultimate simply because of the endgame. And there were like, I'm not going to go too much details about what's bad on each game because I think that's too much of a rant. But even though this video already is kind of a rant, but I want to give you guys the positive attitude going towards the Monster Hunter World, because it is not a different game at all. I don't think it just develops the systems that were in place already in Monster Hunter 1 and just expands it so much more that it's going to be like it is really going to be an amazing moment when we all get our hands on it and get to play. The thing is, like, I'm now going to Monster Hunter World a little bit more in detail. For example, well, okay, let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about Generations, because I want to give you this example. In Generations, or up until Generations, what they have pretty much done is they've like upgraded the hunter. So on the other hand, you have your hunter, which is the playable character, and you hunt monsters with him. And what they've done with the hunter is basically they just add stuff to him, like, okay, let's add new weapons, new armor, let's add this and that, let's add new weapon animations, let's add mounting. Then the Generations, they add new styles, new ways of attacks, like I'm talking about the styles, and then art styles added to that. And the hunter just became this like absolute powerhouse. And of course, at that point, what you need to do is add attack animations to the monsters. So it's, to me, it is a very bad game design where you upgrade your main character to the point where you need to kind of take the monster or the enemy that the hunter fights against, and you need to kind of upgrade its abilities to the same level. That is like, of course, that is the core idea of Monster Hunter so far, because it always has been like this. Okay, let's take the base game, add stuff to it. Let's take the new game, add stuff to it, add stuff to it. It's always been this gradual growth with the game. It's never been like, okay, let's scratch everything and go build the game from ground up, except for Tri. And that is why I think Tri is a very good game, because it did exactly what Monster Hunter World does again. And to me, that's nice. So now that that's out of the way, the whole how game design works and whatnot, and how the balance system works, I want to bring you guys back to Monster Hunter World now and talk to you guys about how they have approached balance. And this is more of a skeptical way of thinking, or not skeptical, but like hypothetically speaking. Personally, what I've seen, I think that they have approached difficulty, balance, and everything of that nature in a very natural way, like in a very harmonic way, you could say. It is closer to what Monster Hunter 1 was all about, because in Monster Hunter 1 it never was about you being this very strong character. If you remember, I was earlier talking about the whole like using your items and everything of that nature, and Monster Hunter World now brings this whole idea of using your environment to your advantage and everything of that nature. So when I talk about harmony, I talk about this idea of, okay, you're fighting against this huge monster, and it is like completely unbeatable with your own hands. Like, your weapon, it might be strong and everything, but at some point you might realize that, okay, I cannot beat this monster no matter what I do, even if I'm very good at the game. Well, not I would say that if you're new to the game and everything, you might have troubles with the monsters. So at that point you might go and look at the environment, learn the environment, learn the items, learn to combine items, learn where to find your upgrade items, use those items and the environment to advantage, and make it so that you can actually hunt the monster. It is no longer about, okay, let's make the hunter strong, let's make the monster as strong and just compete the two. It is more about, okay, this is a very strong monster, the hunter is like down here, like I can't beat this strong monster over here, so what can the hunter do to tackle such an obstacle? So that to me is Monster Hunter at its core, and I really love what I've seen from Monster Hunter World. Of course, that is very, very like extreme example of it. Might not be exactly like that, because we have seen already some multiplayer stuff, and there is that middle ground as well with the multiplayer stuff with 400s. People who have loved Monster Hunter for so long now, almost 10 years, like over 10 years now, still get back to that kind of crucial fighting the monster with everything you have, and maybe not using the environment to your advantage as much, but like people who have experienced Monster Hunter for so long are going to get back to Monster Hunter World and still experience that, like that being powerful and everything. And but as for the single player experience, I think that it's a good thing what they have done, and I would have hoped that they would have brought back underwater fighting, but I'm in the minority that think that it was actually good. It would have been nice, of course, it would have increased like developing time and maybe even loading times and what have you. But anyhow, that's pretty much what I have to talk to you guys about. I'm going to go into detail about Monster Hunter World in of itself in another video. Okay, so I'm sorry about that little cut there, but I didn't find anything that I really wanted to point out anymore, so I hope that you have enjoyed what you heard me talk about. It was more of a rant than anything else, but I hope that you guys can take away some of my ideas, some of my thoughts about the whole series, and kind of like think those things through before you start commenting something about Monster Hunter Generations isn't hack and slash. That is your own opinion, and I can respect that, and I hope that you guys can respect my opinions about things. And yeah, I do hope that we all can enjoy Monster Hunter World once it comes out, and it is going to be an amazing experience, especially since it has been, for me personally, so long that I have been talking about this monster behavior system, and realizing really that the developers have been doing this game for 4 years, and you have been talking about this system for even longer than that, ever since like the Freedom series. Well, not after Try, because the Freedom series I was still not really talking about the behavior system, but overall like how it changed direction. And yeah, it's really nice to see that the devs have actually like, hey, we have actually been thinking this ourselves as well, and this is actually what we want to bring to you guys. And it is so amazing to see that everything that you have hoped for is actually coming to fruit. And yeah, I have nothing else to say other than, if you liked the video, hit that like button. If you didn't, you know what to do. And as always, guys, stay awesome and happy hunting.